Hello friends, welcome to Moradabad Wildlife Window, where every day opens a new window into the wild world. Come along with us to explore the amazing wildlife stories of Moradabad and its surroundings. Beneath the sprawling canopy of a grand old banyan tree, two mighty empires were stirring. They were unaware of each other, yet their destinies were about to collide with the force of a monsoon storm. To the east, nestled in the sun-baked soil, was the formidable kingdom of the Solenopsis invicta, the red fire ants. Their home was a sprawling, intricate network of tunnels and chambers, a subterranean fortress built with precision and strength. Their queen, a magnificent matriarch, was the heart of the colony, laying thousands of eggs a day, ensuring her legion would always be strong. These ants were soldiers, disciplined and fierce, known for their powerful stings that felt like a burning flame. They moved with purpose, a single-minded army devoted to the survival of their great nation. They were the masters of organized warfare. To the west, in the cool, damp leaf litter near a leaky garden tap, lay the chaotic dominion of the Nylanderia fulva, the black tawny crazy ants. Their name was a perfect description of their very nature. Their nests were not fixed fortresses, but temporary sprawling camps that could be moved at a moment's notice. They lived in a state of organized chaos, a whirlwind of activity that seemed random to the untrained eye. Their queen was not a singular ruler, but one of many, sharing power in a complex social structure. Their greatest weapon was not brute force, but their bewildering speed and erratic movements. They could also secrete formic acid, a chemical weapon that disoriented and confused their enemies, turning a battlefield into a madhouse of confusion. The spark that would ignite the inevitable war fell from the sky, a gift from the giants who lived in the nearby house. A large, juicy piece of watermelon glistening with sugary nectar landed with a soft thud precisely in the no-man's land between the two empires. For the ants, this was not mere fruit. It was a treasure of immense value, a source of energy that could sustain their colonies for weeks. It was a prize worth fighting for, a bounty worth dying for. The sweet scent drifted on the warm afternoon breeze, a siren's call that reached both the disciplined fire ants and the frenetic crazy ants. The stage was set for a conflict of epic proportions, a clash of two very different worlds. The discovery was almost simultaneous. A lone fire ant scout, marching in its typical straight line, stumbled upon the colossal red mountain of sweetness. It paused, its antennae twitching with excitement, tasting the air. This was a find beyond its wildest dreams. At the very same moment, a frantic black crazy ant, zigzagging through the grass in its characteristic unpredictable pattern, blundered into the same sugary treasure. Its reaction was one of pure, unadulterated frenzy. Both scouts, driven by instinct and loyalty, turned back immediately. They had to inform their colonies. The race for the watermelon had begun, and with it, the countdown to war. Two worlds were about to go head-to-head over this sweet fallen prize. The fire ant scout returned to its mound with an urgent message. It communicated the location of the treasure through a series of chemical signals, leaving a pheromone trail that was a map for its comrades. The reaction within the fire ant kingdom was immediate but orderly. There was no panic, only purpose. The queen was informed, and the decision was made. The colony's soldiers, the major workers with their larger heads and more powerful mandibles, began to assemble. They formed ranks just below the surface, a silent, disciplined army preparing to march. Their strategy was simple and effective. They would march to the prize, secure it, and bring it back piece by piece, overwhelming any opposition with their superior numbers and organized strength. This was their way, the fire ant way. Meanwhile, the scene in the crazy ant camp was one of explosive excitement. The scout darted back into its sprawling nest, its movements even more erratic than usual. It communicated the news through frenzied dashes and by sharing droplets of the melon's sweet juice. The information spread like wildfire through the chaotic colony. There was no single leader to give a command, but a collective decision arose from the buzzing chaos. Thousands upon thousands of black ants poured out from under the leaves and stones, a frantic, swirling river of black bodies. They did not form ranks or march in lines. Instead, they swarmed. A disorganized but terrifyingly huge mass of individuals, all moving towards the same goal, propelled by a shared, frenetic energy. The first meeting at the watermelon was tense. A small vanguard of red fire ants, moving in a perfect column, arrived to find a handful of black crazy ants already clambering over the fruit. their movements jerky and unpredictable. The fire ants stopped, their formation holding firm. They were warriors of discipline, and this chaotic display was foreign to them. The crazy ants, in turn, noticed the organized red line. They paused their frantic exploration, their long antennae twitching as they assessed the newcomers. For a moment, there was a silent standoff. The air crackled with unspoken hostility. Each side recognized the other not as a fellow insect, but as a rival, a threat to their claim on the priceless treasure. The tension broke without a single, clear signal. A fire ant soldier, perhaps a little too bold, moved forward to challenge a crazy ant that had strayed too close. The crazy ant responded not with a direct attack but by zipping around its opponent in a bewilderingly fast, erratic dance. This was the first shot fired in the Great Watermelon War. The fire ant, confused by the strange movement, lunged and missed. More ants from both sides surged forward, and the skirmish began. The fire ants tried to form a defensive circle, their classic tactic, but the crazy ants refused to engage in a traditional fight. They darted in and out, their chaotic movements sowing the first seeds of confusion among the disciplined red soldiers. The main armies now arrived, and the small skirmish exploded into a full-scale war. The fire ants advanced like a Roman legion, a solid red wall of bodies moving with terrifying synchronicity. Their strength was in their unity and their powerful stings. They aimed to surround the watermelon, cut off the enemy, and dismantle the prize with their powerful jaws. Their majors, the heavy infantry of their army, took the front lines, their large mandibles ready to crush and dismember any foe that stood in their path. They were a machine of war, each ant a perfectly functioning cog. Their strategy was one of brute force and unwavering discipline, a tactic that had served them well for generations. In stark contrast, the black crazy ants crashed into the battlefield like a tidal wave of chaos. They had no formations, no front lines. They were a swirling, chaotic mass of individual fighters. Their primary weapons were their speed and their unpredictability. They ran in wild, zigzagging patterns, making them incredibly difficult targets for the slower, more deliberate fire ants. As the red soldiers tried to grab and sting them, the crazy ants would dart away, often running up the legs of their enemies, causing confusion in the ranks. They also began to deploy their chemical weapon, spraying tiny jets of formic acid that disoriented the fire ants, disrupting their precious chemical communication, and turning their organized formations into pockets of confused individuals. The battle raged. The fire ants, with their superior strength, inflicted heavy casualties. Whenever they managed to corner a crazy ant, the fight was over quickly. A powerful bite and a venomous sting were usually enough to end the struggle, but for every crazy ant they killed, two more seemed to appear, swarming from all directions. The fire ants' discipline lines began to break under the sheer pressure of the relentless, chaotic assault. The crazy ants were not trying to win a direct fight, they were trying to create as much confusion as possible. Their erratic movements and chemical attacks were a form of psychological warfare, designed to break the iron will of the fire ant legions. It was a clash of two completely different philosophies of war. While the main battle was a chaotic mess near the front of the watermelon, a secret operation was underway. A small, specialized team of crazy ants had used the main fight as a distraction. They had circled around to the far side of the giant fruit, completely ignored by the fire ants who were focused on the frontal assault. Here, away from the carnage, these clever thieves worked quickly. They chewed off a smaller, manageable chunk of the melon, about the size of a large grape. Their movements were still frantic and jerky. But here, they were focused on a single task, securing a piece of the prize while their brethren kept the mighty fire ant army occupied. The ultimate heist was in progress. The tide of the battle turned not with a decisive blow, but with a strategic retreat. The small team of crazy ant thieves, having successfully severed their chunk of watermelon, began the arduous journey back to their nest. Their success signaled a change in the crazy ant collective. The signal to withdraw spread through the chaotic swarm, not as a clear order, but as a gradual shift in behavior. The frantic attacks lessened, and more black ants began to disengage from the fight and simply run away, melting back into the grass and leaf litter from which they had emerged. The fire ants, confused by this sudden retreat, were left standing on a battlefield littered with the fallen, both red and black. The fire ants, battered but not broken, claimed their prize. The massive watermelon was now theirs. They had held their ground and driven off the enemy, and in their eyes, this was a clear victory. Their discipline had held, and they'd secured the greatest treasure. They began the monumental task of carving up the fruit and transporting it back to their fortress, their victory procession slow and deliberate. However, the cost had been high. Many of their soldiers had fallen, and their ranks were thinner than before. They had won the field, but the chaotic enemy had proven to be a surprisingly formidable foe, one that did not fight by any rules they understood. Meanwhile, in Drkshay Sai Burdem, Desentoryao in the Crazy Ant Camp, there was also a sense of triumph. Their heist was a success. They had secured a substantial piece of the prize with far fewer casualties than a direct prolonged confrontation would have cost. They had used their unique strengths, speed, chaos, and deception to achieve their goal. They had not defeated the Fire Ant army, but they had not needed to. They had outsmarted them. For the Crazy Ants, this was a victory of intelligence over brute force. They had faced a stronger, more organized enemy, and had still managed to walk away with a share of the treasure, proving that their chaotic way of life had its own powerful advantages. And so, as the sun began to set, both empires celebrated a victory of sorts. The Red Fire Ants had the territory and the lion's share of the prize, a testament to their strength and discipline. The Black Crazy Ants had a smaller, but still significant prize, won through cunning and chaotic brilliance. Neither side had truly conquered the other. The war was not over. It was merely the first battle. They now knew of each other's existence and each other's strengths. The next time a prize falls between their two kingdoms, the battle will be different. They will have learned from this first encounter. Who do you think will win the next round? The disciplined soldiers or the chaotic strategists? If you enjoyed our wildlife journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Join Moradabad Wildlife Window and experience new adventures in nature every day. See you in the next episode. Sometime.